Hello, this is John McCallister with the McCallister Scouting Report. Today we're going to focus and I'm going to talk about the transfer portal, give you kind of an idea of what it is. I kind of ramble through with different ideas of mine. I ramble through with, like definitions and what's going on now. And I even go back to the old days when they gave 125 scholarships for football. So I hope you enjoy it. It's pretty much basic, down to earth stuff, things that I would, I think it's important. I think the numbers aren't quite as important maybe as how do you do it, how long do you have, and the good and the bad of it. So please sit back and enjoy the video podcast. Thank you. Good evening. This is John McCallister with the McCallister Scouting Report. And today we're going to be around in my section called Around the State, and we're going to talk about the transfer portal. That's all you hear now. We're talking about college athletics, any sport, men's or women's, any level from Alabama, Ohio State down to Ohio Northern or any place. You're allowed to transfer. You're allowed to transfer one time. And the crazy thing is, I remember when you had 125 scholarships and they lowered that to 85, and I thought coaches were going to have a fit, a long time ago. And they got it to 85. And what coaches used to do is they get all these players, 125 players, like Alabama, Coach Hayes, and all these guys, and then they'd load them up, and they sometimes they'd transfer, but they go keep them so nobody else would get them. But anyway, I remember that, and I also remember the strict rules that colleges, they almost owned the college athlete. And people argue, well, they're getting a free education. They're doing this, they're doing that. They're getting to play football, run track, or whatever, and they're getting a free education. And that was always the big thing, the free education. And in some ways it was, in some ways it wasn't. Now, also back then, colleges owned you. They didn't have to let you transfer. They didn't have, and then they came up with a rule that you couldn't transfer in the conference. If you transferred or left the program, you had to go to another conference. You couldn't, say, for example, somebody wanted to transfer out of Michigan State. Well, they couldn't transfer to the Big Ten. They had to go someplace else, the MAC, SEC, out east, whatever. And so I think, and then with lawsuits coming and courts coming and everything else, the NCAA, which really doesn't have much power anymore, they think they do, but with the judges out there making a name for themselves, they don't. And so now, I want to look, and I think it was August 2018, they came up with the rule, October 2018. They modernized it. They just called the transfer portal, and you could transfer one time. But when you did that, you had to follow. When you do that now, do it now. You have to follow us. They say strict, but I think you have to follow regulations. Number one, the student athlete must tell the school's compliance officer that they want to transfer. Okay. Then the compliance office has, I think, 2 business days to get to move the transfer name to a digital process. A couple of days to do that. and then everybody can see you. You can go into a portal, you can go into the big 1900s names, I guess. Not just football, but we go into the portal and you can find names, and then you can do research on these guys call them, whatever, and recruit them. And there you go. Now, what I would like to see is I'd like to see a certain time that they can do that. A certain time, like say from May 1st to July 1st, or April 1st to June 1st, something in there, because I think once you do it in the spring, going through spring practice and everything, people are going to have an idea of what they can accomplish, what they can do, whether they're going to be a first team guy, say at McCallister University, or they're going to be a second team, third team guy, and now that may motivate them to transfer. But if they can have that portal, that time in there, that block, then I think that would help organize the staffs, the college staffs. And the portal is good. It's good because I think we've tried to control these, and it's just, times are changing, and trying to control these players. And, I hear, I don't know if you can do that anymore. But the portal will help in that way, and the portal will help give kids a second chance. Because I believe, that's back when they're freshmen or when they're in high school and they have to make that commitment, and it goes down and boom, you got to put their names they have to put their name on a line, and that's it. And then kids are going in now, and they're encouraging kids to come in definitely in the summer, but even trying to finish school early. And there are a couple of kids that in the last 2 years have graduated at the end of their junior year so they could go play college football right away. I guess it's okay. I guess. But man, we're asking a lot of these kids to give up their total senior year. I don't know. I have mixed emotions about that. But my name and $1.99 will get you a coffee at McDonald's. Okay. Now, the other thing, what I like about it is it gives kids a chance, and, that's important. And I think it also helps, a kid, a prospect mentally. If he's really struggling and disappointed and discouraged, and I know you're supposed to be tough guys, and Kirk Herbstreit said, don't quit. They're soft and they're quitters and stuff. But that's not the case. And, we got to help these guys develop. And if it means transferring one chance, one time, then I think it's okay. Now, I would tell you the negative parts of that transfer. One of them, it just decimates your team. You can either be like a team in the Big Ten that brought in 15 transfers that played. I think a lot of them played, but brought those in and got healthy really, really quickly. Got healthy, and I don't know if they're going to keep doing that. But I know the program had been down for a couple of years, and the new coach brought in 15 more. 15 of them played, 13 of them played. So they're giving them a chance to go to another school and play sooner or play right away. And I think, that's probably okay. After it goes to the compliance, and compliance puts their name in, then students a student prospect can go, make his information available, fill out the forms, or he can get on some of the social medias, and he can get on there and get his name out there. Plus, they're going to know people. I'm talking about football right now. You're going to know who's out there, who's in the portal, and you're going to be able to they're going to have telephone numbers, and you can contact them. And the big get big, the big get bigger, the rich get richer. But everybody, they'll know who these transfers are, and the recruiting part of it is bad for the kids. I think for the next couple of years, it's going to be bad because colleges are you still have to maintain the 25 player limit, 25 scholarships offer. You still have to do that, but colleges are putting aside maybe 5 to 10 slots, 8 slots for transfers. Now, obviously, common sense tells you if they're putting together, if you have 25 and you bring in eight transfers, then you have 17 kids to work with, or more than that probably. They'll probably bring in 10 kids, already. And I had a college coach tell me a couple of weeks ago, he said, John, he said, say that this player at Upper Sandusky has a player 6'5", 210, he's tight end. And he's really, he has some skills. He's got a chance. And he said, he looks good, but I can go to the transfer portal and get a player 6'5", 235, a tight end, 235 that has already played some college football. What am I going to do? I mean, we don't have to spend that time waiting for him to develop. And, that's a good point. Okay. Kind of the good and bad too. If a student athlete enters the portal, okay, and he can go any place else as a walk-on or a scholarship player, then if it doesn't work out for him, he can come back to the team that he was planning on transferring away from. Now, the problem, they can do that, but the situation is you can't, the college doesn't have to accept them and doesn't have to give them a scholarship, doesn't even have to accept them. Say if a boy from McCallister University transfers, gets in the portal and he wants to transfer and he doesn't see anything better, okay, then he comes back. Now, we don't have to give him a scholarship, and we don't have to even accept him. So it's kind of tough on the player in a way. I guess I can come right back and say, someplace the player has to make a decision. He's got to take some of the heat. Now, we've talked about the transfer portal. We've talked about, you can transfer one time. So I think people are familiar with that. Now, what I would be concerned about, is I think the Division II will be almost like a AAA level in baseball, in pro baseball. It's going to be, and then below that's almost like AA. They can transfer. Anybody can transfer any place, and I can also see kids coming down to Division II because they have all these transfers coming in, and the writing's on the wall. They may want to transfer down to Division II. So it's just, I guess you just really have to search, and you have to try to make a good decision. And but it can happen at any time. One example in a Division II school. One example in a Division II school, they took a player 2 years ago that had no offers. They liked him. They thought he had some potential as a defensive back, strong safety. I think he may have tried to play corner, but he's inside DB. And they took him, and he just grew and he developed. And he was like an all-conference player. Well, after going into his sophomore year or his junior year, one of the teams in the Big Ten knew about him. And so they said, hey, we want you to come over and play at Purdue. And my goodness, and I don't blame the kid to a certain extent. I mean, the Division II school done all this work, developed him and all this work, and now he's going to get scholarship and play at Purdue. So it's hard because what's best for the kid, and I think that just leads me to my last point here. At one point there were like 1,100 kids in the portal, 120 some Division I schools in the country, and so just think there'll be a lot of kids left without a seat when the music stops. When it all gets over, they're not going to be able to make that chair. And I think again, it's a player just has to do his research, has to be, very well aware of what's going on out there, because there are players that make it. There are players that have done a good job, that have different situations and a different environment, and they do go on, and they, or maybe they don't like maybe they're really, really struggling with a coach, and they do go on. And I know these excuses about, well, the coach left, and so they went with the coach, or they changed it. So much of that is, are you going to go with the coach, or are you going to just play football for the school that you're really comfortable with? And I think I see that. But again, I try to be more of a kid's guy than anything else, and taught for a long, long time. And I just hope we can maybe in 2 years get COVID and all this stuff, kind of get it done, learn to live with it, I think. And then we get the transfer portal, and it just has to work its course. And I think people have to do a lot of work. And there's really one more thing that scares me about that. You're talking about free agency in a way. Well, what's going to happen pretty soon? The sports agents come down, and they're kind of already there now, but they come down and they get these kids that are in college, and even start knowing them, getting to know them when they're in high school, and then they get them in college, and they promise this kid, hey, we'll get your name out there. They do that now in high school, but just in college now, these agents, and they'll find some way to tactfully do that. They'll find some way to do it. It's illegal as heck, but they'll find some way to get that done. Well, I think you need to enjoy playing football, and playing college football, and maybe don't understand where you are, understand what level you're comfortable with, and then go with it. And I would say it works both ways, and the portal works both ways, and hopefully it'll get ironed out, but it's not going to go away. One thing I haven't talked about, I can see it's almost like I just talked about with agents and stuff. What about tampering? What about tampering? And well, I think tampering it seems to be scary to me, because it probably goes on now, but it's going to get more coaches tampering, not just guys. I think that's good, and I don't know how you stop that. It's just another. It's that saying, once a rule is made, many people are trying to find a way to circumvent it or work with it. So I appreciate you listening to my podcast, on the transfer portal. And if I can ever help you, please let me know. Thank you, and have a great night.